Hey everyone, how's it going? I think Muthurajah here, back with a new video lesson for you all. Before I get to the actual lesson, do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bells, enable your notifications so you don't miss out on any videos that I put out. I am aiming at putting videos at least once a week. Been pretty successful for the past few months, touch wood. And yes, do like, share, and do all the good stuff that helps with the algorithm, alright? Consider joining my channel as a paying member where I post exclusive content, behind the scenes, extended lessons, and a whole bunch of stuff, random backing tracks, and whatever I'm feeling like sharing, I just kind of do it there. So yes, do consider that. Okay, so I wanted to talk about a very specific concept, which is actually from math. So besides music being music as in pitch, melody, harmony, and rhythm, music in essence is actually physics and math. Physics gives us the reproduction of the pitch, which allows us to manipulate them into harmony, rhythm, and melody. Okay, so rhythms are essentially pitched as well. That's a whole other series of videos, I suppose, down the road. But I want to look at the math angle, particularly a concept called truncating. So truncating is a very fancy word for reduction or reducing or cutting off. A great example of this would be pi. Pi we usually are taught as 3.14 because whatever comes after 3.14, 0.14, and then it keeps going on 1, 5, 9, 6, 2, and it just, I probably got it wrong, but it just goes on, right? So what truncated scales mean is we do the same thing. We take any scale, we reduce it by one note or maybe two notes sometimes. And when you do that, you start to get different scales that can be used on the same chord type or maybe a different kind of chord altogether. And you also start to get an insight into the more ethnic side of things. A lot of truncated major and minor scales is essentially ragas, which comes from like Carnatic or Hindustani music in India. So one of the most popular truncated scales that we all love, us bass players love, thanks to players like Evan Murray and Damon Erskine and those cats, is that the hexatonic scale that we all refer to. Right? So when you actually look at that scale, I have C, D, E, G, A, B. Okay? Essentially, I can think of this as a C major without the F. Okay? Or G major without the F sharp. Because you still get C, D, E, G, A, B in both the scales, C major and G major. Okay? Which is why this scale works in both keys and instances. So that is a very simple example of what a truncated scale looks like and sounds like. So what I want to take you through is experimenting with the notes we actually choose to reduce or deduct, and possibly even increase the number of notes being reduced in the major scale. So we know we can remove the fourth. Gives a nice sound. So what happens if I remove maybe the second? This gives it a more, they actually have this, they call it the Javanese scale or something like that, but it's a sound you hear a lot in Indonesia, the gamelan music. Also in India, this particular sound. Not the top notes, the A and B, but this one in particular. Okay? Now check this out. I'm going to remove the D and the A, and this is what you're left with. This is a sound that's very synonymous with Hindustani music. It's one of the ragas, like I mentioned earlier. I cannot remember the exact name, but I'm going to put it right there for you to see. So we are basically removing the second, the D, and the A. Okay, And then you can start doing this with different modes as well. You can take the dominant, you get the same kind of raga effect. So it's like a C7 with the 11 added, right? And that 11 to 3 gives nice tension. And then in this case, it's C major 7 with the 11. So you can really start experimenting with all kinds of scales in this manner. You can take, say, a melodic minor and just remove the third. What happens? It's very ambiguous because the third is actually what makes it a melodic minor, that E flat. So if you're looking for ambiguity in your playing or composition, truncation is a great way to do it, because what usually happens is that we have an overwhelming amount of options when we think of scales and what we can actually do with it. So when you start to reduce certain notes to just have less to think about, essentially, you start to get more creative, right? So let's look at the melodic minor example again. So what if I truncate or remove the 2? Okay, then maybe let's try removing the 5. You get a very interesting sound here. I almost played the 5. Okay, then you can probably remove the root. That's a nice sound. And then ascend the same way because I like that sound. Right? So you can kind of guess this can go on for a long while with all kinds of scales. So I got inspired by the great composer Oliver Messiaen, and he has a whole system of modes of limited transposition, and he used a lot of truncated scales in his composition, which is something I've used a lot in my composition as well, and even in my improv, right? So if you want to get more into that, definitely check him out and check out that particular concept of modes of limited transposition. But for now, I'm going to leave you with this, and as always, the extended lesson will be available on the membership platform. All right, so hope you guys dig this, and I'll see you all in the shed. Peace.